He's cold and his saree is pretty.
I'm glad we have some people.
Hello. You want my backup?
No, we
Okay,
are
we
fine.
have.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just asked for it just in case.
There is
Backup plan.
not another song.
Oh, they are
Playing.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I will, much less her. She's teaching science. Right,
Yeah.
so she's happy career. So at least that is.
So you like it,
Yeah, so just you can connect them.
నాకు ఇక్కడ కాదు ఇదిగోండి ఇక్కడ ఇక్కడ నేను మేనేజ్ చేస్తాను
Okay, you're all set.
Thank you for this. I'm really eager to get a chance.
Yeah, there's certain things fascinating actually.
Yeah, I'm glad you indicated that there's the two point set that's out there.
Yeah, that's really amazing how much he has written. It's like a
Circumstantial, that's the best.
so this is the one he has written.
So you got this from the library, huh?
City library.
Copies from the
Very.
Especially this time, we have one in asking for.
Yeah, I was then I gathered some of
See, we are taking examination, don't require that.
the library and said, you have all these books. They didn't have many.
I don't know.
This one. They borrowed from City Library. And you have to go to City Library. Yes, art of stuff. Very good. This one about this 1939. Very good. It's out of print.
Yeah, viral is also
Yeah.
difficult to diagnose.
Definitely, quite well. Hey, Harry.
Right.
What do you got for you? Krishna.
Culture, Latin American countries, Inca culture, Inca civilization.
Difficult for them, so somehow learn to let them go.
Ah, yeah.
Finding out. But I was always wondering, I don't see you around.
Hello, hello. Hello, hello.
Talk sometime. Sangeeta concert.
Hello, good evening everyone. Can we start? I'm just testing.
I will call you or talk to you tomorrow. I will call you or talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's really good. I should be able to finish early. Now somehow the matter.
Hello, hello.
Namaskar. Yeah, may I say goodbye to them. That they will in the morning. Morning.
Krishna, will this be posted on any of our
Right now, 2 weeks ago, I think, on Facebook. I'll send it to you. I'm also recording it. Just in case.
I'm on Facebook. I see a video here and also WhatsApp, what's part of that? The WhatsApp group also.
Okay. Yeah, Facebook is live right now. So we copy the YouTube as well. That way it will be all.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll thank you.
We will send the link.
Appreciate your kindness.
Okay, namaste everyone. I think we'll start. It's time. The cream of the crowd is here. Anyway. So we'll start with a short prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. May Brahman protect us, may he guide us, may he give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Peace, peace, peace. Today we have a fascinating subject, the cultural similarities between the ancient Hindu India and the indigenous civilizations of the Americas. So not much is known about the influence of Hindu India in the Latin American countries. There's a lot of literature available. I will go briefly. Before Columbus introduced Europe to indigenous peoples, the latter had witnessed the development of organized political and cultural life. The great development of the ancient American or Asia-American culture, sit down, took place in South America, Mexico, Central America. Of the Asia-American civilizations, when I say India, generally it's Asia. At one time, there was only one continent. We'll see the slides. There are three major civilizations. One is the Maya civilization, which is the oldest and very advanced. That was, it existed in the early 7th century. That lasted quite a bit, till 600 AD. And a very well-developed civilization. They had, in the architecture, sculpture and painting, they were very advanced. When you see the temples, how they were built in those times, you will realize. The Mayas were the most advanced people of ancient America, Francis Bloom said. The next comes the Toltec and Aztec civilizations that existed from 580 to 630 AD. Then we have the Inca civilization. That's the last one, which came in. And unfortunately, it lasted only for 300 years. And later on, the Spaniards, just like colonial Britishers and the Mughal emperors, Mughal invaders came to India, destroyed a lot of literature. Similarly, Spanish people also destroyed quite a bit of literature in these of these civilizations. In fact, they just put the libraries on bonfire and burned them all. So a lot of literature was lost during these invasions. Who were the Asia-Americans? The divergent opinions fall into two broad groups. One is trans-Pacific and another is trans-Atlantic. We believe in Western migration along these routes. Can you both go back to the first other one? At one time, the whole Earth was just one single mass, undivided. As you see there, all the continents were merged together, and they used to travel from one place to another. And if you see, not only India, at one time, actually, according to Hindu history, Jambudvipa was the island, which was the center of the world. From there, they traversed all over the world to the Western countries. Now Jambudvipa, which was supposed to be south of Kanyakumari, it's not existent anymore. Supposed to have submerged into the ocean. So that's how they traversed. If you see the next slide, then there were 5 major ice ages. One was 2.3 billion years ago. One was 2.3 billion years ago, another 600 millions ago, and third 450 millions ago, then 300 millions and 200 and 2 million years ago. So these are the 5 major ice ages. During the ice ages, the whole world was connected. There was no gap. Then the last ice age, which started 2 million ago, lasted till 10,000 years back. This was so important. Now, if you see there, actually, this is the trans navigation.
Mic is not working. Mic is not working.
Okay.
Hello.
It's not working?
It's working, but you have to just hold it closer.
I may have
Hold it closer.
All right. So who were the Asia-Americans? This is the navigation route, starting from, of course, from India and different places also. This is transatlantic. Then we have the navigation in those days was very advanced. Actually, if you see during the even 2,000 years ago, there were major ships which were carrying almost 200, 300 people. From India, for example, the Chinese ambassador to India, he carried the Buddhism on to the Far East. So they were traveling on ships in the middle of the ocean, not just on the coast. So they were very advanced in those days. And that was even before 1,000 years before Columbus traveled to Caribbean islands. It is likely that man first came to America from Asia towards the end of the last glacial period, probably between 20,000 and 10,000 years ago, across the Bering Straits. Can I have the next one? See, if you see, for example, the whole world, all the continents were connected except the between Siberia and Alaska. There is a gap there that is called as Bering Straits, which is about 60 miles wide and 200 feet deep. So that's the only area which there is a gap during the ice ages when the ice melted and there was a gap and people, when they were connected, they used to travel on foot all the way. When, so that was approximately 10,000 to 20,000 this year. But the time periods are changing as they are developing more and more. They're advancing in the knowledge. The king of Mexico, Montezuma, told Spanish invader Cortes that his ancestors arrived from the east. Genetic proof, what is the genetic proof of Asian migration? Recent genetic studies discovered that almost all American Indians belong to one of 4 genetic categories called haplogroups. 3 of the Indian haplogroups, when I say Indian, it's primarily here. I will say East Indians if it is related to India. 3 of the Indian haplogroups are also very common in Siberia. This confirms that American Indians came from Asian ancestors. The genetic DNA study of different American Indian groups suggested that the first migration to the Americas took place sometime between 29,545 and 22,414 years. So pretty old. Another group of researchers focused on the one Indian haplogroup that's very rare in Siberia. The migrants left Asia between 43,000 and 33,000 years ago. So their time periods are changing quite often. Why Asians went to South America? The most likely answer is gold. McKenzie opines that the love of gold was a great catalyst for migration to the Pacific Islands and America. It seems more likely that they were prospecting metals, stones, gold, and pearls for which a great demand has sprouted in the centers of ancient civilization. That's a goldsmith. It looks like Indian goldsmith. This was in Peru in those days. Hindu yugas in America. You go to the next one. We have 4 yugas, as you know: Kruta, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali yugas. And the ancient Asians were skilled. Hindu doctrine of ages is still preserved in Aztec calendar. We'll see the calendar shortly. The 4 yugas are, the Mexican sequence is done according to Hindu yugas. The following comparative table shows the lengths of the Indian and Mexican ages. As you know, Kriti Yuga, 4,800 years. These are divine years, not the earth years. And the Mexican exactly the same thing. The first Yuga, Kruta Yuga. Of course, Treta Yuga and all, there's some difference. So they also have 4 yugas just like ours. And 1 year of mortals is equal to 1 day of the gods. And the 12,000 divine years, as you see on the left side, Indian years, equal to 4.32 million years of mortals. In fact, all the 4 yugas, they have combined together, it will be 4.32 million years. And 1,000, that's called as one unit, it's called Mahayuga. 1,000 of these Mahayugas constitute 1 day for Brahma, that is 1 kalpa. And I can imagine 4.3 billion is again, it's night time, this is only daytime, 12 hours for the creator. Can we go to the next one? This is the Aztec calendar. This was found in 14th century. It was 12 feet in diameter and weighing 20 tons, this calendar. And it has a lot of detail, just like our Hindu calendar. It was cut from a single block of black porphyry and was completed between the years 1487 and 1499. It was originally near the Spanish people. They destroyed it, and the court is completely buried beneath the debris. Anyway, it was recovered later on. This elaborately called disc shows the Aztec history of the world, a prophecy and a record of Aztec myths. The historical portion is divided into 5 sons or ages, 4 of the past and 1 of the present. The calendar reveals the progress of time, the succession of days, years, and epochs. It has a lot of details. Anyway, we'll go further. Okay. Hindu traditions and festivals, how they were celebrated in the Latin American countries. The Dasara festival, very fascinating. The Indians of America duly celebrate Dasara festival in commemoration of Rama's victory. The Peru Indians still perform the Rama Sita Utsav, Dasara festival. Indians in Mexico still stage the fight between the armies of Rama and Ravana, and the author Chamanlal witnessed such a fight in 1939 at Chilpan, Inco. Also, a mask of Hanuman was seen. Sir William Jones was a Supreme Court judge under the East India Company, found in the year 1786 the imprints of the stories of Rama and Sita and the remnants of the Mayan civilization. To quote him from the Asiatic Researchers, Volume 1, page 426, Rama is represented as a descendant from Surya, or the sun, as the husband of Sita and the son of princess named Kaushalya. It is remarkable that Peruvians, whose Incas boasted of the same descent, styled their greatest festival Rama Sita, whence we may suppose that South America was peopled by the same race who imported into the farthest parts of Asia the rites and fabulous history of Rama. Imprints of the Ramayana and Mahabharata have been noticed in the poetry of Peru. The American story of Yapan resembles closely the story of Indra of the Mahabharata. Now, the next slide. Bengali ceremony. Maybe our Bengali friends will correlate. Okay, he gave me the information. The ceremony of swinging the young sun god, also the Dakota USA swinging, is like that annually performed in Bengal by the devotees who swing themselves on hooks at the Charak Puja. The left one, the Bengal, how it is celebrated in Bengal. The right one is in Peru. It's called as Charak Puja. It is held at the Chaitra Sankranti, a Shiva worship festival. 4 individuals are suspended by cords with hooks drawn through their flesh to a movable wooden structure. It is pretty gross. Am I correct?
Yes.
The next is snake. There is also the cobra dance was also witnessed in Latin America. Mr. Chamanlal, who is the author who wrote a beautiful book on Hindu India, witnessed a snake charmer who started playing the flute and swaying side to side and back and forth like in India. The lid was thrown off the basket. Yes, we say most Indians, as Indians, we remember that very well. The lid was thrown off the basket, and up reared a cobra with a forked tongue and a somber hood. Gently swaying, he kept time to the music, and with cold, hateful eyes, he watched the dancer. Now snake and eagle. This is the Mexico national emblem. As in India, the snake and the eagle legend is also very popular in Mexico, whose capital owes its foundation to that legend. So it is fitting that the national emblem of Mexico should be an eagle holding a serpent. Mackenzie asserts that Mexican eagle with the snake caught in beak and talons is therefore like the Garuda eagle of India, which similarly preys on snakes. Both are mythical bird gods rooted in remote times in a distant area of origin. This is a national flag of Mexico. In the middle you see the eagle and the snake. The elephants. Elephants were, as you know, they are not present in Latin American countries. The American writer and explorer, Mr. John Stevens, visited the ruins of Maya civilization in Central America in the middle of the last century, and he detected the elephant and a sculpted pillar at Copan. The two ornaments at the top appear like the trunk of an elephant, an animal unknown in that country. A reproduction of one of the ornaments showed the elephant Elephas indicus as being a species found in India, Ceylon, Borneo, and Sumatra. Mackenzie, along with the scholars, are of the definite opinion that ancient Mexicans and Peruvians were familiar with Indian mythology. Example, the Maya elephant symbol cannot be traced in the local tradition, whereas it was a prominent religious symbol in India. It is unlike African elephant. There are some differences between African elephant and the Indian elephants. The African elephant has longer ears, a less elevated head, a bulging forehead without the indentation at the roof of the trunk, which is characteristic of an Indian elephant. These are the different forms of Indian elephants that were depicted in the temples of Latin America. So they said definitely it is Indian elephant that was present in the temples there, not the African elephant. The evidence of cotton. In about 2500 BC, cotton was cultivated in India in the Indus Valley. In Egypt, the first definite proof of its use dates to 4th century BC. Mostly in general, people think Egypt was the first source of cotton production. On the North Peruvian coast, Yucca preta, woven fabrics of elaborate pattern, dated about 2400 BC, were made from a highly advanced cultivated species of cotton. The American cottons are tetraploid in chromosomal constitution, and their chromosomal complement is made of one set homologous, with the complement details anyway, gives all those things. After a series of painstaking experiments, experts have agreed that one parent of the American cotton undoubtedly came from Asia, likely from the Indus Valley area. Coconut. There's particularly in this pattern, this batik pattern is present there, which is common with only in India. So apparently there was some connection. The fabric pattern present in those countries and India. The evidence of coconut. Another plant, these are all quotations from different authors and archaeologists. Coconut. Another plant which appears to have been imported to America from Southeast Asia is the coconut, Cocos nucifera, which is regarded as a characteristic plant of the Pacific. It is a pan-Pacific species with its origin probably along the shores of the Indian Ocean. Maize. There are 30 varieties of maize which are consumed in Mexico and other countries. Maize, Z maize, is widely grown in Asia and Africa and is used in various ways. Two scientists, C.R. Stoner and Edgar Anderson, independently came to the conclusion that certain distinctive varieties of maize widely grown by the Nagas in Assam, in India, had been in cultivation there from the pre-Columbian period. After experimentation, they came to the conclusion that there are two varieties of maize in Asia and that one of these must have crossed the Pacific in pre-Columbian times. And the diet, the ancient Indians of America were mostly vegetarians. The Hindu bread, I know chapati, we are familiar. Roti is eaten in every Indian home in Mexico and adjoining states. They call them as tortillas. It is made in the same way, of the same size and shape as in India. It is made of maize, Indian corn. They use pepper and most of the Hindu herbs for flavoring dishes. Chewing of betel and coca leaves is a common daily habit in both countries. So a lot of commonalities. Swastika. Do we have the picture? Yeah. Swastika, as you know, is a very, very auspicious symbol in India, among Hindus as well as Buddhists and Jains, etc. Swastika, perhaps one of the most interesting coincidences is the occurrence of another form of cross, the swastika. It occurs almost in every form of the potter's art. So many pots and some windows we can see there. The swastika, which has been excavated from the first epoch of ruins anyway. The swastika cross was used as a religious emblem in India and China at least 10 centuries before the Christian era. This was confirmed by Stewart Macmillan. The weaving, the process of applying design known as resist dyeing, or more familiarly known as batik, is seen in India, Java, Philippine Islands, and in the Gobi Desert. Music. So every item is compared actually. Like the Song of India, the indigenous music of prehistoric Peru, with its basic oriental tone, seems to give voice to the soul of a people. Now Hinduism in Peru. Peru, the land of the sun, which derives its name from Sanskrit Paru, had numerous Hindu imprints. In Sanskrit, Peru means golden mountain, and Paru means paradise. The people of Peru were called as people of the sun. You know, Rama's period, it was solar dynasty. The Maya and Aztec rulers of Central and parts of North America were also Suryavanshis. To quote from Prescott's Conquest of Peru, like other Indian races, Peruvians acknowledge a supreme being, the creator and ruler of the universe. Mexico. Is it a Hindu name? Mexico, Sanskrit word, abundance of its gold and silver. Maxica is a mineral substance of which two kinds are described. The Swarna Maxica, or the gold Maxica, of a bright yellow color, and the Rupia Maxica, that is silver Maxica. There are a lot of names, we'll come to the language also. The flowers and garlands. The use of flowers for all rituals and hanging garlands and wreaths around the necks of gods is a common Hindu and Indian custom. Attic performs here, lady performs, that is in Colombia, in Santa Monica Mountains. She is leaving the flowers in the river, just like we worship when you go to Kashi and other places. A lot of people send these flowers in the water in some small cups So they have the same in Colombia. Origin of the Aztecs. The Aztec, the last rulers of Mexico, were worshippers of the Nagas, snake god. We don't have the slide there. Okay. Possibly derived their name from Azteca Rishi, who saved the Nagas from complete destruction. You know King Parikshit, he died on the seventh day due to a cut by a sage, a snake, from a snake. So his son Janamejaya took a revenge. He said that he wanted to kill all the snakes in the world. So he conducted Sarpayaga, and millions of snakes were destroyed in that fire. And then one Vasuki snake, he requested the sage Aztec to protect some of the snakes. So Aztec, the king finally obliged Aztec, and the rest of the snakes were saved. So sage Aztec, they think Aztec is actually, this Aztec says on his name, the Aztec civilization was created. The next, California in USA. Kapila Muni is mentioned in many Puranas. Bhagavata Purana calls him Vedagarbha Vishnu. With his mother's permission, he travels towards Northeast Asia, that is present-day Japan and Korea, and settled in present North America. At that time, land on the planet was called Akhanda Bhumandala, undivided mass of land, as we saw before, where continents were not found yet and was ruled by one emperor. California, being Kapilaranya, was disclosed by the great sage Kanchi Sankaracharya of Sri Chandrasekhar Saraswati in October 1932 in Chennai. So if Chandrasekhar Saraswati Swami said it should be true. Vedic ceremonials in Mexico. Ancient Mexican mode of producing the sacred fire by means of a reed and a piece of wood, and its symbolism of the mystic union of the two principles of nature, the origin of fire as told in the Vedas, and the ceremonial mode employed in India to produce the sacred fire by means of the mystic Arani and Brahmada. As you know, during Kumbhabhishekam time, you must have seen that before they produced the fire using those, this is exactly what, that is ours. By churning those things, produce a fire, then only they did the Homa Kunda. So they used to do the same thing there. Hindu marriage customs. Ancient Aryan light god Mitra was worshipped under the form of fire. Layered on in his Culti de Mitra published on the culture of ancient Mexico, a man and a woman worshipping a star, recalling the portion of Hindu marriage ceremony where the pole star Arundhati is pointed out. So after the marriage, they also take the bride and groom outside to see the star. Dr. Hewitt, British scholar, describes their wedding called Punlagan. In Sanskrit it is Punyalagan. So they called it as Punlagan, meaning auspicious ceremony. Women have parting of hair with vermilion, just like we see on our married ladies in Hinduism. Maya women also pierce their left nostril for inserting jewel nose rings, just like Indian women. This is a cremation. We'll go sun worship. The ancient Hindus cult of the sun still survives among Japotica and other sections of Indians. A morning prayer to the sun is still offered. The moon and the stars are still worshipped by the Indians, in spite of Christian attempts to wipe it out, what they thought was heathen practices. The worship of rain god, our Indra, also continues in many parts of America. Cremation. It is surprising how many things are common. The ancient Americans used to cremate the dead like Hindus. It was supposed to be impossible for souls to reach or even enter celestial paradise until their bodies were consumed by fire. The cremation was the original custom for Mayas. In 1948, Francis Bloom of Tulane University found fragments of cremated human bones in pottery urns and pieces of white cotton cloth. The clay urns were closed with clay lids and sealed with resin and gums. It's interesting to note a small hole was punched into their sides, which is common in Hindu funeral services. In the cremation in India, either the husband or the son, they carry the pot with the small hole, go around 3 times around the funeral pyre, and the water is leaking from that hole in the pot. Similarly, they used to do that. Anyway, the cycle of existence. To the Mexicans, death is an incident in the continuity between this life and the next, just like our reincarnation. They felt that the warriors who died either in battle or in sacrifice were supposed to depart to the eastern paradise of the sun. Similarly, our Kshatriya warriors, if they die in war, they were supposed to go to heaven. So, they depart to the eastern paradise of the sun. Aztecs believed that the soul was immortal. The god of death. For the Mayans and the Hindus, the gods of death are very similar. For the Hindus, Yama is the divinity of death, while the Mayans call theirs Yam Simil. In Indian and Mayan history, the Yama and Yam Simil are not considered devils and are truly revered as well as intricately sculpted on towering temple walls. Temple pyramids. Here is very good correlation between Hindu temples and the pyramids. The ruins of Teotihuacan have revealed 2 world-famous teocallis. One is the sun and the other is moon. Sun is called as Tonatiuh and moon Nesli. American pyramids are very unlike those of Egypt. There is some difference between Egyptian pyramids and the American pyramids. They are in fact step pyramids with several rectangular terraces, each of diminishing size, placed on top of one another, with an outside stairway leading up to the platform. At the top, they have a temple. The Egyptian pyramids had neither platforms nor temples at the top. There was no stairway outside. Egyptian pyramids terminate in a point at the top, but the style of the American pyramid is similar to that of temple pyramids of Cambodia and reminiscent of Mount Sumer in the Hindu Buddhist world. Brahmarshi Mayan is the originator of Vastu science and technology. And in the Sangam period, more than 10,000 BC, Maya lived in southernmost part of extra Jambu Dvipa, as I mentioned earlier. Mayan appears in the Indian epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata. In the latter, in the Mahabharata, you know that he constructed Maya Sabha for Pandavas. Dr. Humboldt's men did. Leader of Mayan race, he was professor of art and architecture at the University of Mexico. He states, since Mayan was the progenitor of our culture, and we are the followers of that great Mayan, we call ourselves as Mayas. The renowned Indian temple architect Arnabhushan Dr. Ganapati Sthapati did research on the temple and Mayan architecture of Latin America. If you remember, Ganapati Sthapati is the one was the architect who gave the drawings for our temple here. So we were very lucky to have his services. He was the retired principal of Government College of Architecture and Sculpture in Mahabalipuram. That is the only college in India which trains the architects, temple architects. Anyway, he did a lot of research on the temple and Mayan architecture of the Latin America. The fundamental principle of Mayans architecture and town planning is the module. Buildings and towns are to be laid out according to certain multiples of a standard unit. Mayan advocated the use of an 8 by 8 square for a total of 64 units, which is known as Vastu Purusha Mandala. Sthapati verified the ancient Incan residential building at Machu Picchu in Peru and discovered each unit was indeed built on a module-based plan following the system of Mayans 8 by 8. Ganapati Sthapati, if you see there, can you go back on slide? If you see there on the left side, that's the Tanjore temple, Pragadeshwara temple in Tanjore. And see the pyramid on the right side exactly fits in there. And Tanjore temple, one of the most architecturally beautiful temples. Now it is recognized by the UNESCO. On the top you see the single stone which weighs 80 tons. You don't know how they carried that single stone all the way. So now if you compare both, exactly they're similar. The pyramid, as Mayan pyramid as well as Hindu temple. Anyway, he did a lot of research on that. The temple structure at the top was exact. Chichen Itza. Okay, next one. Yeah, next one. Probably some of you have seen this in Mexico. Close examination of this pyramid of the Kaiser shows that it conformed to the Vastu Vedic principles of Maya. The temple structure at the top was exactly 1/4 of the base, and the stepped pyramid design derived from the three-dimensional extension of the basic 8 by 8 grid system. The temple room at the top was also modular in design. Temple of Fire, Havan Kund. Because this is from Indians. Archaeologists have unearthed a temple in Peru, believed to be more than 5,000 years old, at the famous El Paraíso site located near Lima, the capital city of Peru. It is called the Temple of Fire. The heart located nearby discovered structure was used to burn ceremonial offerings. That is the one. And Marco Guillem, who led the team of researchers, interpreted the findings and said the smoke allowed the priests to connect with the gods. This concept is very much similar to the Vedic rituals done in Havan Kund. So in our Havans also, priests always say, Swaha Indra, Swaha Varnaya, Swaha, like that. Similarly, we also had that. What are the linguistic similarities? There are so many now. I have to skip some of them. There are 4 pages. Sanskrit and Quichua, that's a local language in Peru, Inca civilization. There are 4 pages like that comparing words. Local language and Sanskrit language. A lot of similarities. This Poindexter compared all these things. It's a 2-volume book. It's a huge selection. He was ex-US Senator and late US Ambassador to Peru. He collected a lot of data on this American civilization. Next one, please. Language similarities. So for example, in Mayan, we call chakra fourth centers, and we call as chakras. Meaning is similar. Similarly, kundalini, power of God within man, controlled by breath, and Indian we call it as kundalini. Similarly, chilambaram, sacred space, and we call chidambara hasyam on the right side. And yoga, like top of truth, we call it as yoga. So a lot of similarities in linguistic connections. Now, we'll go to Hindu gods in America. Temples, idols in Mexico, as in India, were lavishly decorated with gold and precious stones, which inflamed the lust of the Western invaders. And for us, it's very easy to realize because, Muhammad Ghazni invaded Somnath temple 17 times to take away all the gold there. The temples and idols in Mexico as in India lavishly decorated. Mexican and especially Mayan people worship the Hindu gods Ganesha, Indra, says the Mexican Life in July 1935. When the Spaniards arrived in Yucatan, they found an immense number of gods being worshipped. The great god was the rain god, Chak. He migrated and transformed Ganesha Hindu system. With him marched Indra, the maize god. Indra was a popular god found most often in the Mayan Aztec monuments and in the manuscripts. Three murtis, okay. As compared, just like Hindu Trinity, the creator Brahma, the sustainer Vishnu, and the destroyer Shiva, they also had these three murtis, and including their Shakti wives, Bhavani, Sarvati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. For them, the names are different, but they're all same. One was the creator, one was the preserver, and the other one destroyer. Now we'll go to Coricancha. Probably some of you have seen near Cusco, which was the old capital of Inca Empire in Peru. There is a beautiful temple. It's called as Coricancha. They are full of gold inside. There's a temple there. The Sanskrit name of it, the children of the sun built the great temples in honor of their deity in India, America, and other parts of the world. The most renowned of the Peruvian temples is at Cusco. It is so enshrined with gold that it received the name of Coricancha. In Sanskrit, it is Dhar Kancha. Means place of gold. The interior is a mine of gold. On the western wall, some of you might have seen, there's a beautiful sun there inside the temple. And the morning sun reflects directly onto that figure. And all the rays are just dispersed, lighting the whole hall. It's a beautiful temple full of gold. But we'll see the sun worship was there. That's how we also pray there, similarly. Coricancha, that is Dhar Kancha in Sanskrit, or the place of God. The wall on the western wall was emblazoned with a representation of the deity, consisting of a human countenance looking forth amidst innumerable rays of light which emanated from it in every direction like the sun. The figure was engraved on a massive plate of gold of enormous dimensions, embedded with emeralds and precious stones. It was situated so the rays of morning sun fell directly upon it, illuminating the whole hall. Architecturally, this temple of the sun is one of the most remarkable buildings in the world. The temple, of course, was converted into a church later on. So now, that is on the ceiling of the same temple in Cusco. A lot of gold there. And they were also offering, just like our arati and the incense, they were also offering incense there to the sun god. So these are all the original pictures. Okay. So many similarities, it's very surprising. Ganesha in America. You can see Ganesha is holding in one hand a bowl of rice, on the right hand. The Hindu god of luck, Ganesha, was worshipped all over the Pacific and in America. This picture is taken from one of the sculptures in the great temple of Copan. Depicts the god holding a bowl of rice in one hand. Is the Maya god of Muluk. This symbol, the Mexican form of the Indian elephant god Ganesha, must have been brought into this country from India, where no elephant has ever been seen. Elephants are indigenous, sacred as symbols of the rain god. And there is also Vishnu. Vishnu with the chakra and gada was also present in one of the temples there. Trident. This is Machu Picchu in near Cusco, actually, Peru. That is also about Ganapati Stapati. He identified how it was constructed also according to some modules, just like in India. It's one of the wonders of the world. Trident. We'll move fast. This is a very, very marvelous symbol there. That is then again in Peru, in the Andes Mountains, on a slope in the sandy area next to a lake. The Paracas trident found in Andes Mountains in Peru, and it is a distorted version of a breed. A little extension there. In Ramayana, the next slide. In Ramayana, on the right side you see a quote from Ramayana. In Ramayana, Sugriva says to Vanaras, he gives the Ayodhya, exactly where it was written, 440-50, that while reaching Udayadri, Sugriva is telling Vanaras in search of Sita, when you reach Udayadri, they will see Jat Shilarupa, golden rock peak, edged on which is a golden pylon, resembling a palm tree with 3 branches with a golden podium. It is constructed by celestial gods. The local people in Peru, they worship it as one of the celestial symbols. It is regarded as the native folklore as the lightning rod of god Viracocha, a pre-Incan civilization god of the sun and storms, and he carried thunderbolts in his hands. This measured 600 feet from one end to the other. It's a huge structure, and people have to see from above. And 2 feet deep, petrified into the sand. Next, I think, okay, we'll finish soon. Temple of Monkey God. Do we have another slide with the book? This Douglas Preston has written a beautiful, big book actually. It's in the library, county library. The Lost City of the Monkey God, and how they explored the city. It was deep in the forest on the top of a hill. People had to traverse through the deep forest where the snakes, all those wild animals were there. Anyway, it was discovered by Douglas Preston. There was once a temple with a large staircase. Go to the next, the other one. Yeah. Staircase leading to a statue of a monkey god. The heart of the temple was a high stone dais on which was the statue of monkey god. Theodore Morday, an American adventurer, found the lost city of monkey god in 1940. Ancient Americans of Central and South paint red color to all their god statues, similar to Hanuman deities smeared in reddish orange. We have celebration about Hanuman temple. Morday speculated that the deity was an American parallel to the Hindu deity Hanuman. Any confusion? Say Hanuman temple in the Peru mountains. Okay. Anyway, we'll conclude the lecture. Professor G. Eliot Smith, aside from the general conclusions to be drawn from the constant contact and intercourse which have existed from the most remote times, exist at present between the primitive American man and the Asiatic, and the obvious fact that they are the common origin identity of much of their culture. The eminent scholar, Miles Poindexter, as I told before, was the former US ambassador to Peru. In his 2-volume treatise, the Ayar Incas, he calls Arias as Ayars, called the Maya civilization unquestionably Hindu. So that is his conclusion. And he wrote 2 big volumes. I'll show you huge volumes that Poindexter. These are the 2 volumes he written on the civilization of Inca and Peru. So I gathered a lot of information with this. So that is about the similarities of civilization and culture between ancient Hindu India and Americas. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Can I ask you to comment on a couple of things? One, first of all, Chaudhary Tharigopala is my name. I had been to the Mexico Chichen Itza Sun Pyramid. I actually climbed the pyramid. It's a beautiful site. There is a sun pyramid and a moon pyramid there, just outside Mexico City many years ago. So I was thinking why is such a similar structure was there. I didn't know all this.
Yeah.
And you gave a very nice speech on this topic of Hindu migration from Asia to Americas. One point you did not comment, I want you to comment, is women were not treated equal in both in India and in the Native American Indian population. They were relegated. Hunter-gatherer society, men went out to do the hunting and bring the food, both in India and here. And women were relegated to the household chores and raising children. Is that also of a Hindu culture that was adopted by Native Indians? That is one point I want you to please comment. And number 2, I think human psychology is similar wherever people are. 4.2 million years ago, human origin from Africa and then migration to Asia and then to America happened, but human psychology is similar, and the behavior, language may be different, dress may be different, but I think behavior is similar. But you illustrated nicely the Hindu culture or cultural origins in the Americas as such. However, I have a troubling problem there. Christopher Columbus came to America, and for him, all were red Indians. Everybody looked the same to him, but they were all different. They were Appalachians, they were Sioux tribe, they were Navajos. They were all different. They had different languages and all. The same way, East India Company came to India, but India is now today 5th largest economy in the world, whereas American Indians are like second-class citizens here in America, and very few are in the administration. There are many reasons for that. India adopted English language and education and all, whatever, but an Indian origin person is ruling Britain now. But I want you to, with all this cultural and Hindu origin, what happened? I want you to please comment to the Native American Indians, why they are so backward, and they speak English language, but their educational status and their status in the society as such and in the government is second grade in America. Whereas Indians who come to America from India or better than most Americans? I want you to comment on this, though this is contemporary and that is ancient civilization. Those are the points. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments, but I have no comment for that. Okay, anyway, yeah.
After listening to your comments and everything, there is a similarity of culturally, my name is Robert, similarity of Indians and the Mexicans. Is there any study doing genetically identifying the genes of both nations?
Yeah, I think I told that about before. Genealogy of haplograms, there are 4 or 5 varieties. 4 were present in South Siberia, 1 was exclusively in the East Asia. So I did comment before. They are doing lots of research.
So I have to ask a question. So I have had this interest since childhood to kind of read religion, history, genetics and all this. So I actually used to be a very hardcore Hindu, then turned into an atheist, then I'm rediscovering spirituality. So in that period of atheism, I read a lot of books, and I read a lot of histories. So, so let me tell you one example. Right? The Mayas, their main food was corn. In fact, they have a god, as you mentioned, right? There's a god for corn. Right? Now you would assume that if Indians and Mayans knew about each other, they would know about each other's foods. Right? That's a simple assumption. So, so in the Vedas, there are 2 widely used foods which are completely missing. Okay. So right now in the Indian subcontinent we use potato and wheat. Potato and corn, which are heavily used now. They are completely missing from the Vedas, from the Ramayana, from the Mahabharata. Okay. There is no mention at all. So similarly, if you look at the Mayas, they had no idea about, so some foods which are mentioned in the Vedas, they are not mentioned by the Mayas at all. Like rice, wheat, ginger, like this very common stuff mentioned all across in the Vedas.
Yeah.
So it's kind of curious, right? So he's that the Mayas don't know about Indian foods, and Indians don't know about Mayan foods, right? I believe in spirituality. I mean, I think that I've come to this realization that there is something spiritual beyond this universe. But I disagree with this Indian obsession that all around the world Hinduism was there. I don't think it was. We may have hit upon the real truth that there is a Brahman and all that, but I don't think the rest of the civilizations were anyway connected to India, because the people who wrote the Vedas had no idea what was beyond the Himalayas. You have to wonder, like for example, the 12 Jyotirlingas, right? So where God came down, Shiva came down on earth. So you have to wonder, why is it all of them are in India? There is no Jyotirlinga in Russia, in Japan, in America. So it kind of makes you wonder whether it is.
Who wrote the Vedas and then?
So I personally believe there is a core truth in the Vedas.
Vedas.
About the Brahman and all that.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things which are very curious.
So Vedic knowledge was present from the time of creation. At the time of creation, God gave certain principles, and eternal principles actually, conveyed to the sages who, in their enlightened state, absorbed those ideas. It was present from that time onwards.
So when you say creation,
let me. It was present, knowledge was present all through. But during Veda Vyasa was codified what was existing. Vedic knowledge, much of it disappeared. As out of 11, much of the knowledge disappeared because the knowledge was conveyed from Guru to Shishya. And if the Shishya didn't remember anything, the knowledge disappeared. If there is any premature death of the disciple, or if you forgot, the knowledge disappeared. Whatever knowledge that was left about 5,000 years ago, Veda Vyasa codified knowledge into 4 Vedas. So much of knowledge already disappeared by then. Got it? It's not like it was created by Veda Vyasa. It was existent long ago. And Prajapati was Brahma created it, The knowledge was already given to them at the time of creation itself.
I'm kind of like torn between these two views of the world, right? The
Anyway.
spiritual view of the world and the scientific view of the world.
Anyway,
So,
to
yes.
sum it up, all the Hindu knowledge has not spread everywhere all over the world.
Okay.
What I told is today, whatever knowledge we have, similarities, it's not that all the similarities are there. There are some similarities, which I said. These are all verified by different authors, different archaeologists. Okay?
So can I just make a point? Three things. First of all, the Kapila Aranya, that is definitely a big stretch because we are talking about a time that we're talking about the time called Pangea, before the formation of the continents. That is even before the geological ages, Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Cenozoic. Mesozoic is the period of the dinosaurs. Even probably only the single cell life existed. So that's definitely a huge stretch to believe. Number two, sun worship was prevalent in the ancient world. Egyptians worshipped sun, they called Amun. Mayans, they called Chiklit, so I forgot the name, it's a large name. So just because they had sun worship, it's very difficult to make the connection.
I would like to add
Number
one.
three, just a
There is
second.
another
Even the
sun god
Japanese
called Ra.
worship sun.
That's good. Number three is, of course, just because we find similarities, we cannot say they are caused. Genetic similarities, possible, we know that, because Siberians, ancient Siberians, definitely they crossed over to the east, that's everybody knows, they were great human migration. Does it mean the ancient, our forefathers, the Vedic people, who were centered around northwest India, Sapta Sindhu, that's very clearly described in the geography of Vedas, Sapta Sindhu. It does not describe anywhere that, that they're going that way. Number three, about the pyramids. We saw that. We know about Egyptian pyramids. Ziggurats, ancient Mesopotamian ziggurats, they had the same structure. So can we say, we can say, hey,